Today is a very special day because we are here in India and we're talking to the CEO of security services firm Terrier. So let's go inside and let's talk to Dr. Ramesh. This video is brought to you by Email 10K. Learn how to book meetings with billion-dollar brands and take your company to the next level at email10k.com. Especially with the global situation and everything, it seems like security is becoming more and more important. Countries are attacking companies. Companies are maybe attacking countries. Who knows what's going on?
Yes.
So in India, that's all I know about is what I've heard about the US. Is it like that in India as well?
Yes, pretty much. See, if you really look at the security concepts and things like the way we talk about the security industry is pretty much is the same because we serve majorly American companies, the European companies. Most of them have presence in India. So the policies and things like that, whatever, pretty much they try to implement here, but with a little Indianness into the whole thing. So that way we are pretty understanding what the requirement is there in a US company or a European company, a global company like things which we are working with, like Google and other companies where we work very closely. So we understand the requirement and then we build a solution for the customers.
How do you think about pricing compared to, so I know a lot of people, at least software technology, like India is known as an outsourcing country.
Right.
Do you see your company that way, like being outsourced, or how do you deal with pricing, like negotiating, making sure you get the rate you deserve? Like, how do you think about all of that?
See, one of the biggest challenge in the industry, I'll come and explain about Terrier. The biggest challenge in the industry is now it's becoming more commoditized. Instead of looking at the solution, they look, say, what is the charge of per guard? But what is that we are changing from Terrier's standpoint is we are moving away from that commoditization of these services to become a more solution driven. Now, when we're talking about solution, what we really look at, like I said, we would go and do a risk assessment aside. While doing that, we try to reduce the cost. The biggest advantage of doing that, reducing the cost, is the customer is happy. We're able to give a better solution so that we are moving away from the competitor. And the biggest thing what we also do is, majorly, if you see in the security industry in India, everybody provides man guarding. There are 22,000 companies in India which provides man guarding. There are around 9.9 million people doing security job. So in that thing, what we differentiate ourselves is to make sure we provide man guarding, but biggest thing that what we differentiate ourselves is the technology part of it. So with that, we eliminate at least around 90% of the competition. So remaining 10% would be doing the similar kind of services. So what we want to we inculcate or we tell customers is when you're doing a security business, two things is very important. One is how scalable I am and how sustainable I am. That's one thing which we answer. The second is how agile I am. Whether I'm able to adjust to the current requirement. Like if you see in the last 2 years, the security industry security concept is completely changed. So earlier we were only talking about security and safety, but now what is getting added to that is also the health of the individual or people like that. Like for example, today we're talking about COVID-19 safety and things like that. So slowly the security scope is becoming bigger, and that's where we want to be there. And believe me, in the last 1.5 years when the COVID came in, there was not a single site which we didn't provide services. Even though during the peak COVID period, we were able to provide services because we equipped our team to manage those kind of situations. May it be training, may it be providing support to the security guards. We have provided food to them. We have provided shelter. In fact, in some of the cases, the security guards were accommodated in the residences of the operation team. So that's how we really work closer to the requirement.
Was this obvious to you? Because it seems like you could take two approaches. You run a security business. Right. You're on the ground security. This is all you do. You run security guards.
Correct.
Or it sounds like you guys are approaching it completely different. You're just security in all forms.
Yes. What I would say is, see, the core is security business. But the biggest thing is how I can add other things paraphernalia so that the business becomes more user-friendly, where I can give a client a complete bucket of services just not security guards. So we differentiate that in case. What we also want working is to make sure how I upskill my security personnel, because today again the challenge is to do multitasking. So we are training our security personnel to take multitasking. Like for example, what happens here is fire is another important aspect of the security thing. So we are trying to educate our security personnel so that they can even undertake the fire-related challenges which would come in a side. Otherwise, what would happen is they need to have a separate individual who will manage the fire challenges. So the security personnel will be trained to do that. So the upskilling happens for the security personnel, so that we become multifaceted. So it becomes more friendly to the customers.
We were out in Faridabad, outside of Delhi,
Right.
and we were meeting with this agency owner. He had maybe 25 employees, and he was selling web development for $500 a website.
Right.
Okay, you guys sell for a lot more than that.
Right.
What would your advice be to somebody like that, CEO of a smaller company, that maybe they want to charge more? He definitely wanted to charge more.
Correct.
What would be your advice to somebody like that?
See, another thing is, since, like I said, in security field alone, there are 22,000 companies. Just imagine the kind of the numbers which is there. So, bigger thing is you'll have to find a problem, you try to fix it. See, that is the differentiation that you want to do with the sun. Now, the current situation, if you see, what's the problem to get a quality people, right? So that's a big challenge today in the security field. Can I get people who are really trained, who knows multiple things, computers, language skills, if he's able to manage other things like fire or mailbox or things like that. So that is where we need to differentiate ourselves. So you may be small, but if you're able to differentiate, that's the difference which is going to make, and the client will love when you differentiate yourself and you're able to sustain that differentiation.
And it's also client type, right? Like you're talking to Google, he's probably talking to local plumbers or something.
Yeah. So sometimes you should think big. It's important. If you don't think big, if you're satisfied with what you're doing, I always believe in challenging the status quo. I don't want to be in the status quo position all the time. So I keep challenging that, and then that's where we see the thing happening. When you're challenging the status quo, you're always trying to. Your mind is thinking differently. That will make a killing instinct.
What do you do when it comes to, or what do you read when it comes to self-development? Like, do you have a journey with like Tony Robbins or anyone like that?
Yeah, I follow Robin Sharma. I've been a big fan of his books. I've read this book called The Leader Without Title. I love that book because it shows you don't need to have a title for you to really do. And it talks how passionately you can do yourself. That is one. I strongly believe. The second is I challenge myself. I don't have a challenger outside. I challenge myself whether if I've done something today, can I do it better? So because what is important in motivation, if you really look at, if I'm externally motivated, it's a challenge to carry on for a long time. Because I just give an example. You're going to give me a holiday in, let's say, Hawaii. If you achieve this, let's say if there's a thing, what suppose if you don't give me that motivation? Then I'm not motivated to do things. But if I motivate myself internally, then that's it's sustainable. So these two philosophies I really look at.
Do you do anything for energy? Like, what's your morning routine? Are you working out every day? Like, how do you do this?
Yeah, I get up at around 5:15 in the morning. So I do a walk and then do 1 hour of yoga. So I reach home once I go to a institute where we do yoga. Come back around 7:30, get up and read newspaper. Then by 8:30 we are on calls with the leadership, and then it goes on. So there's a routine which I follow. I do trekking, I do cycling, I do 100 kilometers at one stretch whenever it's possible. Then we do swimming. So these are some of the other routines which I follow.
What do you think is, so you obviously care. This is one thing when you're talking about your habits and what you're doing day to day.
Right.
You were talking to customers, you say 2 customers a day.
Every day.
And a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs have a hard time talking to customers. Like, I know we've run a lead gen agency. I don't talk to any of our customers. Horrible. So what would you say to someone like me?
See, unless you're connected with your customers, you're not going to grow. It's important. If you have growth plan in your mind, please get connected to your customers. and I make sure my calendar is always fixed with 2 customers. Sometimes what happens here is there are customers who call us for some reason, some requirement is there. So that's apart from that, I make sure 2 customers are called. You have to call the customers. And the biggest advantage is when you're actually in the growth path, these are the people who will help you out. Tell her, hey, listen, there's a friend who's looking out, so why don't you call him? So that's how we work.
Have you ever been saved or come up with some kind of amazing insight while you were talking to a customer that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise?
Oh yeah, many times actually. I'll give an example. Way back when I started with G4S, so that time the concept of pan India was not there. Like pan India in sense, signing a single contract and then working the billing at a centralized place, and creating a help desk for the customer centralized. So while we were discussing, we understood the challenges what they used to have. Like there was a client where we were providing close to around 300 locations. 300 bills were being produced. So we came back and said, why do you want 300 bills? You like signing in all the 300 papers? Then we said, no, let's consolidate and make a single bill so that it's easy to manage and you don't have to do multiple checking. So we did some innovations there, and then we were able to go back, and the guy was thrilled. I said, it saves so much of time, because if I had to go through all the 300 bills, it's so time consuming. So we innovate. So that's why we keep on talking. When we talk to customers, we get a lot of ideas. So we try to use those ideas and then build a solution for that.
What does the sales process look like? So you say you're grinding hard on sales. Is that cold calling? Is that emails? Like, how are you guys growing right now?
See, it is multi things. It's just not one. It's just not cold calling. It could be multiple things. One is, of course, what I always believe is reference. Reference works better for us. Somebody says, okay, I have a friend. So that's one channel which we do. Then cold calling we do. But cold calling, what we do is we just don't pick up a phone and then we do an email campaign first, and there are some certain times they come back to us, and we call all the customers where we've sent an email telling that, sir, we send this, are you interested? Check the basic things. So we get that. Plus, we also have a big sales team which are in constant touch with the customers. They do prospecting. So prospecting is, I also, again, I believe the concept of 2 per day. So I tell my sales guys, at least 2 new customers you should meet every day. If you meet 2, let's say 20 days in a month, so 2 into 20 is 40. 40 into 3 months, quarter, we would have done 120 customers, new customers you would have met. Just imagine if you do that consistently over a period of 1 year. See the kind of customer base that you will generate. So that we follow quite aggressively.
Is there a director of sales that manages the team also?
Yes, we have a director. He's based in Mumbai.
Okay.
And for strategic reason, we've divided India into 2 regions. One is north, west, and east, and south. So each one we have a sales head, both report into the sales director.
When you think of the sales heads, how do you think about this? So, you ever read 4 Disciplines of Execution?
Yep.
Okay, so there's this book called 4 Disciplines of Execution. They talk about lead measures and lag measures, which is basically like the actions you got to do now to influence the lag measures, which are the things that you can't really control with the actions now in real time, but they happen over time. How do you measure the effectiveness of your sales team?
See, what we do is we do have my sales director has an everyday call with my team members, and then they check the sales activity. See, what is important is sales will happen if you have the right sales hygiene. When I say sales hygiene, there are few things which needs to be done. Like I said, 2 meetings per day is a must we should do. Then we say at least 3 to 5 proposals in a week you have to generate. Then you should make sure all the data is uploaded in a system. We use Salesforce as the tool. Make sure those activities are tied in that. So that is the hygiene factor. Once that is done, then it becomes a measurement, how these guys are performing. So it's typically the pipeline measurement, what we do. So when we're doing the pipeline measurement, we see how the pipeline is increasing on month, and how within the pipeline, how is the movement from one stage to next stage. So we manage, everything is monitored, whether if it is, and we always believe the sales velocity. So how long does a guy take to close the sales? And also measure the average sales size. So these are some parameters, sales hygiene, which we really focus, and that is which gives us better results. Because I wouldn't say you get 100% success, but the success ratio is better when you follow the process. So that's how the sales team focuses on the process.
How do you think about scale? Meaning, how do you think about measuring resources, like doubling your sales team, tripling your sales team, hiring new people? How do you think about the growth of the company?
See, my vision, if you see next 5 years, I want to double my business in terms of both headcounts and the numbers. Uh, One is it can be organic, or it could be an inorganic, where we could acquire a company in terms of which has good clientele base. That is one. More compliant, because compliance is such an important thing for us, and which are financially good kind of a thing. So these are the two things that we are looking at. But I strongly believe when we grow organically, it's more sustainable. There are not much of challenges. But when you do an acquisition, there are a bit of challenges that we need to overcome. So that's where the due diligence will help when we are acquiring a company.
When you go to look for acquisition deals, are you talking to a broker? Like, what does that look like at your level? What does that look like when you're trying to identify targets to buy?
So one is we know what the market is, how it's behaving, how the competitors are behaving, and there are companies where we see there's a potential where we can acquire. That is one. Of course, we use a third party also to do team, and we have a very strong M&A team which is sitting in Quest, so they help us doing that.
Any advice to people that want to become CEO? How should they be thinking? What should they be doing?
See, one thing always it's easy to climb up and reach the top, but the biggest challenge comes how you can sustain your position being at the top is very important. So for that, there's certain parameters that you need to really look at. One is there should be a constant learning. Second, you'll have to be working with different kind of people, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and work accordingly. It's not you say this is your strength, this is your weakness. Because you have this weakness, I don't need you. No, that should not be the philosophy. You'll have to work with their strength and convert that to your strength. So that's the people management which you're talking about. The third aspect is being very aware of the market. Again, when I say market, it is the clients as well as your competition. So you need to have a wider reach to the customers. Customer facing has to be really good. And the other thing is the competition. So you need to really understand your competition, because if you're able to understand your competition, it's much easier to sell.
That's interesting, because some people, they have the opposite philosophy. They're like, ignore the competitors. But the way you break it down, you're like, all right, 90% of our competitors are irrelevant, so I get these 10%. So you're very much competition focused.
Yes, it is important. But like, if you ask me when WhatsApp created a technology, that's unique. See, either you work in the red ocean or you work in the blue ocean. If you're working in the red ocean, we all are in red ocean. Means it's very saturated. Everybody knows. Then all these things is important. If you're working in a blue ocean, it's absolutely new. Nobody knows about it. You're creating a market. Then you don't have to worry about the competition. So you are on your own and you develop the market for yourself.
So you've kind of, it's kind of a hybrid between
red ocean and the blue ocean.
Yeah.
So you always try to go towards the blue ocean. You still have to work in the red ocean. You have no choice, because that's the way industry is. But then see how you can go towards the blue ocean where it's absolutely new, differentiate yourself and get that. Then you don't have to worry about the competition.
So we're wrapping up. Thank you for being here. Where should people go after this interview?
Social media is a big influencer in any business today. If somebody says no, social media doesn't, I'm not impacted, that's a wrong thing. Because I listened to one song which has recently come. It's a singer from Sri Lanka. In 3 months, it's 10 million or something. So it's purely, nobody would have even heard about it. But that has become so widely popular in just 3 months. So if someone says, no, I don't need social media, it's wrong. We are strongly work with the social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We are all the time uploading data there. We are creating our presence in the digital market, in digital world. So it plays a very important role.
You bring up an interesting point, actually, about social media, which is when we talk about what your sales team's doing. You mentioned omni-channel. I don't know if you use that word, but you mentioned multiple sales approaches, cold email, cold calling. Is social media a big driver of inbound leads, or is it not very?
No, it is a big driver for the, developing sales leads, primarily because you get a complete database there, which is there, and we use something called Lucia in the LinkedIn, where I can pick up if I want a contact number of somebody, we can just put that there, and it pops up the contact details. So that is one. We do also do a lot of campaigns within the LinkedIn and Facebook. What we try to do is we don't just go publicize selling that we are this, we are that. We don't do that. That's not a right way of doing it. What we do differently is some of the good works what our guards are doing. So we try to put that on the social media, because to set an example, see, we have team which can deliver and who can do differently. That is what we really look at as a branding perspective.
Dr. Ramesh, thanks for having me in your amazing office out here.
Fantastic. And I had a lovely time with you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Super.
Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to smash the like button to encourage this type of content on YouTube. Subscribe for more videos like this. Is there anyone you think we should interview next? Let me know down in the comments. Would love to hear about it. I loved what we just did, and I look forward to doing more. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm Alex Berman.